So guys, in yesterday's session you have learnt about basic Python programming language, and today's session we are going to start with NumPy. So guys, yesterday's session we had used Spider tool of Anaconda INC. Today we are going to take all the tutorials in Jupyter Notebook. It is also a very handy tool when we need to write both the text and code along with. So guys, this is a very handy tool for writing Python code. So we are using Jupyter Notebook for today's tutorials. So guys, starting with NumPy. So first of all guys, what is NumPy? I would start with NumPy full form. Guys, full form of NumPy is numerical Python. NUM stands for numerical and PY stands for Python. So guys, these two terms complete the word NumPy. So guys, NumPy, we are using NumPy for arithmetic and logical operation on arrays. First of all guys, what is arrays now? Guys, NumPy arrays are basically Python list, and we had added some additional features in that list, then it is termed as NumPy array. Guys, first of all, before starting with NumPy, I would like to suggest you that you can install NumPy if you have not installed by running this command pip install NumPy. I had already installed this NumPy library. That's why guys, I had put this code in command. And guys, if you want to run this code along with me, you can start your Jupyter Notebook and type along with me the codes. Or guys, in the description, we had provided you this file that I am going to explain you. You can also open that file and work along with me. So guys, let's get started. First of all, guys, NumPy arrays are just added features of Python list. Guys, to create a NumPy array, we can simply create one NumPy array using Python list. So guys, let's see how can we create the NumPy array. First of all, guys, we need to install NumPy library. I had already installed. Then guys, whenever we install any library, we need to import that library so that we can use in our code. To import any library, we have to use import keyword followed by the name of library. And guys, last two words you are seeing, this is optional. What does this mean? AS stands for aliasing. So guys, I am aliasing this NumPy as NP. What does this mean guys? In the code section, I don't need to write NumPy again and again. I can use a short form as NP. So guys, I have to write only NP instead of NumPy. So guys, let's see how we can create one NumPy array. To create one NumPy array, NumPy module provides us one function that is known as array, and it takes one compulsory or one mandatory argument, that is the Python list. We have to simply pass our Python list in the argument, and we have also more arguments guys, but that are optional. So as you can see in this code here guys, I am using np.array function, then I had passed one nested list. This is the guys nested list, and in this list guys, I am zooming little better for your better viewing. So guys, in this list you can see our first nested list is 0 1 2 and second one is 3 4 5. So guys, what will happen as we run this code? What NumPy array, how NumPy array will be formed? It will take the first list guys 0 1 2 and it will be the first row of our NumPy array, and the second list will be the second row of our NumPy array. Guys, as you can see in this, all the elements are integer. If you don't explicitly write the data type or manually write the data type, then by default it will take the integer data type. But guys, here I am mentioning the data type as float. So guys, here it will explicitly write float data type. So guys, and last part of code is print. We can directly get print this array without REPR. I will tell you the difference of both the functions. Let's execute this. Guys, here you can see that as I told you, we have two rows. First list will be first row and second list will be second row. But guys, if you don't use REPR, it is also good looking. But for when we have two or three arrays, for eradication of confusion or for complexity eradication, we can use REPR function. So guys, now if we run this, as you can see guys, we are getting array keyword add, so that we can know this is a NumPy array. And as well as here we had mentioned data type, that's why it is also returning the data type. So guys, I would suggest you to don't use direct array. Instead, you can use REPR function for the better visualization of array. So guys, here this is the basic example how we can create one NumPy array. Now guys, in this example, all the elements are of same data type. All the elements are integer data type in the list we had passed. Guys, if we have mixed data type, as you can see in this example low at downside, that guys here in this list we have two data types. One is integer and the middle one element is float. So guys, now what will be the data type of this array? Guys, when Python when Python identifies mixed data type, then the arrays type will be upcast to the highest level type. Guys, can anyone say me which is the highest level data type? Either it is integer or float. I am waiting for your reply in comment, guys. Integer or float? Good answer by some of guys. Mandeep Singh, Josana Sharma, Aprajita Kumari. Good guys. And 1 minute. Vishnu Murali saying integer. No, Vishnu. Float is the right answer. Float is lower level data type, and sorry, my mistake. Integer is lower level data type and float is higher level data type. So this array will be typecasted to float data type. So guys, let's print this array. You can see all the elements are float. Here we have point after the integer variable like 0 and 2. This indicates that this data type is float. So guys, I hope you are clear with the mixing of data types. Now array will always be upcasted to the highest level data type. So guys, this is the basic introduction how you can create any array in NumPy. Now guys, moving forward, that is the second our operation, that is copying. Guys, we can copy array in two formats. Either we can just pass a reference or we can use a copy function. I will tell you the difference of both the ways. First of all, guys, here you can see we are passing one list. This means it will be 1D array of one row only and two columns. So guys, our first array will be 0 and 1. The first row will be, there will be only one row and first column will be 0 and second column will be 1. I hope you would understand this concept, how NumPy array is created. I just told you now. So guys, we had created two arrays A and B. Now guys, here we is doing C equal to A. So guys, this is not copying. Take care guys, this is called referencing. Referencing of arrays. What referencing means guys, it will not make a separate copy. In place of that, it will point to the same array. When we create C equal to A, C will point to the same array that A is pointing on. So guys, when we, first of all, here we are printing A. So what will give, it will give output, it will give 0 and 1 as there are only two elements. Now guys, I am changing the elements. Guys, this is the way I will tell you about this later on, how this is known as indexing. C of 0, you may be knowing in list also guys, we are doing indexing. Similarly, in NumPy arrays, we are also doing indexing. So guys, here we are using C of 0. It means we are using the first element and we are converting the first element to 5. So guys, now I have updated the first element of C. Guys, again take care. I have not updated the A array. I had only updated a C array. And here I am, after updation, I am printing A array. Let me print. So guys, you can see here, before updating C, array A was 0 and 1. And after updating, 0 is changed to 5. We had changed to the C array, but it also changed to the A array. So guys, this is not an efficient technique of copying. This is called referencing. We should avoid referencing so that it will also change the original array from where we had referenced the new array. So guys, the better approach is we can use the copy function. Copy function does not take any argument. So guys, we have to just simply write the new array name followed by equal to sign and the name of old array from where we want to copy and dot copy function. So guys, it will make a new copy of the old array or the original array. And if we change guys D array, you are seeing that we are changing the 0th element of D. So it won't affect any element of B. You can see guys, we had initialized B as 9 and 8 and it is also printing same. It does not affect any changes in B. So guys, I hope here you are clear between referencing and copying. Guys, can I get a thumbs up if you are clear with this part? Guys, a thumbs up in the chat section. Manas O'Hara is asking what is REPR. REPR is an inbuilt function in Python. I had told you earlier, here I have used REPR. Here also I have used REPR. Instead of directly printing the array, we can guys use REPR for a better analysis. You can see here, wait a minute, I will show you in live. If I remove REPR from here and only write A, then then you can see that here array keyword is eliminated from the above, and the representation is also not so good. Here is no comma, no curly braces. So if you want a good representation, you can use REPR. And if you don't, if you want to you go with traditional way, it's up to you guys. I am just telling you some advanced feature or some efficient way how to write programs. So you can, if it's up to you, you can use REPR or you can directly go with normal print statement. So guys, I hope you are clear with, as I had received many thumbs up. Guys, don't worry, I will take the everyone's doubt in the last section of this seminar. And guys, I hope I had got many thumbs up. I had got many thumbs up, and I think you are clear with this part. So guys, moving forward, we have third operation, that is casting. Guys, casting basically means we have to change the data type from one to another. Means, for example, you had seen above here. Here the data type will be float, and if you want to change this to any other data type, we can do using casting. Casting is just changing the data type of one array to a new data type. So guys, here I had created again one NumPy array with 3 elements, means 1 row and 3 column. Then guys, I am printing here data type. This is an attribute of array, that is D type. Using D type, I can print the data type of the array. Let's try it over here also, guys. If I print here, we had an array name D. Let's D dot D type. Guys, you can see we had written the output as integer 32, because guys, the output, the data type of D is integer, so we are getting integer, and 32 is nothing, guys. 32 is the bits or byte it is occupying. It is related to what we can say space, but it is not of much care as of now. So guys, here casting basically tells us that here the array has 3 inputs, 0, 1 and 2, and we are printing the data type. Can anyone tell me which data type will be printed as an output? Guys, in the chat section, can you write what array.d type, this line I am highlighting, this will print. I had told you above also, guys, this example. Yes, many of you are giving right answer, integer, int, right. Int 32, yes. Int 32 will be the actually answer, but int is also right. As I told you, we are not focusing on now the bits and bytes it is taking. Int 32 it will print, but int is also right answer. Good answer by everyone. So guys, it will print int 32. Then after, guys, we are typecasting it. We are casting it. As type is the function we use for casting to a new data type. And guys, it will take only one argument, and the argument will be the new data type. What we are passing as new data type is float 32. So guys, here we have to use NP, because float 32 is nothing supported in Python. It is supported in NumPy library only. So that we have to use float 32 instead of float. So guys, and here we are changing the data type of this array. Now let's print the new data type. Yes guys, you can see the old data type is integer 32 and the new data type is float 32. So guys, I think data type casting topic is clear to you all. Now guys, moving further, let's talk about range data. Guys, here we are creating arrays manually. We are typing elements all manually, as you can see in all above example. Oh, sorry guys. In the all above example, we are typing the elements manually. But guys, what if we want a very long array of many elements? So here np.arrange function comes into picture. Guys, we can create a 1D array of a range data using np.arrange function, arrange function. Guys, here we can pass multiple arguments. I will explain you every argument one by one. First of all, guys, in first example, we are just passing one argument, that is 6. Guys, this is the ending argument. And guys, remember one thing, this is exclusive. It will not consider this while creating the array. So guys, what will np.arrange function do? It will start from 0 and it will print, it will make an array with the elements exclusive of 6, means 0 to 5. Let's see the output. Yes guys, as you can see here, we had made a 0 to 5 array without manually writing, without hard coding, what we can say in the language, coding language. We are not hard coding here the elements. We are using the arrange function and we are writing Here we are getting a 1D array in a return. So guys, if we use here, it is the integer, guys. As you can see, 6 is the integer. So we all the elements are integer over here, guys. Similarly, if I take 5, and here, guys, note one thing that IS uses dot. What does dot means, guys? Here dot means float variable. So guys, it is a float variable. And guys, can anyone tell me what will be the output of this one? Guys, chat section. Yes. Mandeep Singh, you are a little close, but your answer is not absolutely correct. Yes, Manas Ohara, you are right. I had got the right answer, guys, from Manas Ohara. He is telling that we will get from 0 point to 4 point, right? Yes, 0.0 to 4.0. Guys, this is the right answer because I had told you earlier that this 5 is exclusive. While making the array, it won't include this 5. So guys, let's run this code. You can see, guys, here we had got 0 to 4. Because guys, 5 is exclusive here. We are not including in this array. So guys, I hope you are clear with one argument. When we pass one argument, it is the endpoint and it will be exclusive. Keep in mind, guys, this part. And guys, now we are passing two arguments. Guys, when we pass two arguments, the first argument will be starting point and the last argument will be the ending point. And again, guys, the ending point will be exclusive. So guys, you can see here we had got the output -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. 4 is exclusive because the endpoint is always exclusive in np.arrange method. Now guys, in last example, you can see we have three arguments. Let me guys write comment here so it will be beneficial for you. Guys, if first argument is start, last argument is second argument is end, and last argument is step. So guys, here -1.5 is the starting value, 4 will be the ending value, and 2 is the step. What the step means, guys? There will be difference of 2 between consecutive elements. Two consecutive elements will be having a difference of 2. So guys, you can see here we had got the output. We had got our output, and you can see -1.5 and 0.5 have a difference of 2, and again 0.5 and 2.5 have a difference of 2. And again, guys, if we move further, 2.5 and 4.5 will be a difference of 2, but 4.5 will be out of the scope of the endpoint. So guys, we are getting these three elements. Guys, I had shared the notebook with you. You can read this also that I had explained. The same is written over here. So I had mentioned the theory part also. Now guys, we have a special function, or we can say our advantage function over arrange, that is known as linspace. Linspace is advantage over arrange, guys. How? Because guys, here we can't mention how many elements we want. Here we can't mention that between -1.5 and 4 we want 7 elements or we want 4 elements. Guys, for this we have linspace. Here guys, we have three arguments. Again, I will write in the comments so that you don't get confused. We have first at starting index, then ending index, then num. Num is the number of elements, the number we want in our array. So guys, as you would understand that 5 is the starting index, 11 is ending index, and num is the number we want in our array, means we want 4 elements. Guys, but one important thing about linspace is here 11 will be inclusive, as arrange exclude the endpoint, but here linspace does not exclude the endpoint. It will include the endpoint. Let's run this part, guys. You can see here, guys, we had got the output 5, 7, 9, and 11 because 11 is not exclusive here. Guys, here we can add argument so that we can work as arrange function. We can use endpoint equal to false, so that guys, by default endpoint is set to true in linspace. But if we set endpoint equal to false, then guys, it means that if endpoint will be false, then the end element will be excluded. So guys, you can see here that the end element is excluded here. Now guys, moving further, we can also change the data type as we are changing in above section. Just add the d type argument and set the choice of your data type. So guys, here you can see in the above you had the float data type, but in the integer here you have integer data type. So guys, I hope you are clear till here. We had covered 4 topics till now. that is creating of array. Then guys, what was 70? Copying of array, casting, and range data. Now, guys, our fifth type is reshaping. Guys, this is a very important concept regarding NumPy. Here we will use reshaping in our NumPy. Whenever we create machine learning model, it is useful, guys, reshaping. So, guys, for reshaping, we can reshape any format. But, guys, there is one restriction. I will tell you. But before this, NumPy has np.reshape function. np.reshape function will reshape our original array. Guys, here you can see that we are creating an array using np.arrange 8. Can anyone tell me what will be the return value? What value we will get from np.arrange 8? Guys, in chat section. 0 to 7. Yes, I had got right answer from many of you. Vivek Purohit, Gautam Tarika, Mandeep Singh, Ronit Verma. Right, guys, this is the right answer. So, guys, I hope you are enjoying this and you are also taking care. You are also focusing on our part. So, guys, it will return one D array, that is 0 to 7. So, guys, total number of elements is 8. What is the size of the array? Size of the array is 8 because there are 8 elements. So, guys, I was talking that in reshaping we had one limitation. What is the limitation? Let me explain you. We have total 8 elements. So, guys, we can reshape in any type, any row and a column. But, guys, the multiplication of that row and column will be equal to 8. For example, guys, I can take 4 rows and 2 columns. Or, guys, I can reshape it into 2 rows and 4 columns. Or, guys, we can also reshape into 8,1 or 1,8 like this. But, guys, we can't reshape it into something like 3,3. This will be wrong because 3,3 means 3 row and 3 column, and the total number of elements will be 9. But here we had 8 elements, so this will give an error. So, guys, I hope you would understand in which shape. These are the different shapes, guys. 2x4, 8x1, 4x2. These are the different shapes. So, guys, I hope you would understand in which shape we can resize our array. So, guys, here we are choosing 2,4 as our reshape size, and we are printing. And here, guys, we had used np.reshape function. And, guys, first argument here, what will be the first argument? It will be the original array. First argument, original array. And, guys, second argument will be the shape, new shape. So, guys, second argument will be the new shape which we want to reshape our original variable. So, guys, after reshaping, we will get 2,4 means 2 rows and 4 columns. Let's print this, guys. Sorry, invalid syntax from my side. Print new shape. Let me, guys, eradicate this part. Okay, guys, I got the error. Here I am missing with, I think, expected end of file while parsing. Wait a minute, guys, let me solve this error. 1, 2 brackets are here. 2 all brackets are also here. Guys, give me 2 minutes. Okay, guys, I got the error. Sorry, guys, there was a mistake from my point. Here I have started comment section from here. So, guys, this round bracket is considered as a part of code. As you can see, guys, you can debug your code using the syntax error or the message that is passed by our compiler. If I will use here comment, then the error will be eradicated. You can see, guys, I restarted the comment section after this round bracket. So, guys, I was getting the error. So, guys, this was the error, and I had solved this error. You can see, guys, whenever we get any error, don't need to panic. You have to just read the sentence, the message that is passed by our compiler, so that you will get a better understanding. And with solving the errors, guys, you can get a better understanding how can you write your Python program. So guys, here this was the error, and you can see guys the array was 0 to 7 elements, and after resizing our array is two rows and 4 columns, and here it is the new shape of our array. So guys, I hope you had got the basic understanding how we can reshape our array. Guys, we have one special value for reshaping, that is -1. When we can use -1, guys, when we don't know what will be the shape of our array. For example, guys, if we write, let's try one thing. Guys, you can see I had written -1 instead of 2 here. What does this mean, guys? Guys, this position will automatically calculated by our Python program. This is a very good feature, guys. Suppose we don't remember that we had 8 elements totally, but we remember that we need only 4 columns. So I can write here 4, that indicates our column, but here -1. It will automatically calculate the number of rows that will fit using the reshape function. So guys, here you can see instead of 2, we can also write -1. So guys, here the example is shown here that we had np.arrange 8, that means 8 elements. And if you want 3D array, here you can see we are passing 3 arguments in shape. So guys, it will create a 3D array, and we are not mentioning here, guys, first what will the first step. We are mentioning -1. What does this mean? It will automatically calculate, guys, the value. Let's see, guys, here the value is calculated, and it is a 3D array, guys, of shape 2, 2, 2. So guys, 2 is automatically calculated. And guys, there are many more changes in this. You can, guys, mess around with the code. I had provided notebook link. You can mess around with the code, and you can try new things. You can also every time, guys, refer the NumPy documentation so that you don't leave with any doubt. Now guys, here one more concept of flattening. This is always used in deep learning when we are creating any model. What flatten will do? Flatten will again convert this into 1D array. Guys, here we are first creating 1D array of 0 to 7. Then we are reshaping into 2, 4. And guys, flatten, how does we perform flatten? We have to just call flatten method without any argument. And now guys, we are printing here original array. And then we are printing here shape of the original array. So guys, you can see here. Look guys, here we had reshape our array. So first, what will we get? 2, 4. So here, so guys, here we had got our output. Then what will the shape of array as we have passed 2, 4? Guys, now you can see after applying flatten, we are printing our flattened array. So guys, the flattened array is here. That is, guys, 0 to 7 here. You can see, guys, here it is again flattened to the original shape. And when we try to print the shape, it will print 8, because there is no rows. There is only one column. So it will print 8, Guys, I hope you are clear with this reshaping part. Now guys, moving forward, transposing. Transposing of matrix is also a very good operation in NumPy. Perhaps guys, sometimes we have data that are supposed to be in a particular format we want. For example, suppose we want any data in 4, 2, means 4 rows and 2 columns, but we got new data as 2, 4, means we got the data that was in the format of 2 rows and 4 columns, and we want to reshape it as 4, 2. Then guys, instead of reshaping, we can use transpose. Transpose will just reverse. It will change the number of rows into number of columns, and number of column into number of rows. So guys, here again we are creating same 8 elements 1D array and reshaping into 4x2. And guys, here for transposing, we can use transpose function, and we have to just pass one argument, that is the name of array. So guys, the name of array is here ARR. So we are passing the same over here. And at last, we are printing the original array, shape of original array, transpose array, and all shape of the transpose array. So guys, you can see here, here's the original array, then shape of the original array, transpose. Guys, first we have 4, 2 array. Then when we perform transpose operation, then it is changed into 2, 4. First column will become first row, and second column will become second row. This is how, guys, transpose works. This is just a basic introduction, guys. We are mainly focusing on the part which you will be requiring for machine learning. We are not covering each and every topic, because guys, that will not be of any use. You can also, guys, if you want this tutorial in Hindi, we had already taken a webinar at the beginning, means in May or June, we had conducted one webinar You can look it into our channel. It was getting started with machine learning. And now guys, moving forward with zeros and ones. Here guys, sometimes we want to create arrays that will be filled with 0 and 1. But guys, why do we need such kind of array? Guys, when you will learn about classification in machine learning, in classification guys, we want labels and like 0 or 1. If we have multi-class, then more than 0 and 1. But if we have binary classification, then we need only 0 and 1. So guys, for creating such dummy variables or dummy labels, we can use zeros and ones. But guys, this is very simple. Just we need to pass how many we want. Here guys, the shape, what we can basically, we have to use np.zeros function, zeros, not zeroes. We have to use np.zeros function guys, and we have to pass the shape in the first argument. And guys, it will print the array of the same shape. And guys, here one optional argument is there, that is data type. We can also guys print data type, that is optional section. So guys, you can see here I am printing this one. So we had got 4 columns and only 1 row, because guys here we had passed the shape only 4. That's why guys we are getting this shape. Now this is zeros guys. Now we are using np.ones. In np.ones guys, it will return all the ones. By default it return the float data type, but if you want to typecast into integer, we can use dtype argument of np.ones or np.zeros. So guys, here in np.ones we had passed the shape of 2, 3. So it will construct an array of ones, and it will take 2 rows and 3 columns. So guys, let's run this part of code. You can see guys, here we had 2 rows and 3 columns of ones, and all are of float type, because by default it prints float data type. Now if you want the ones in integer data type, the additional argument we can set dtype equal to np.int or int32 as per your choice. So guys, let's run this part. Here you can see now the output is all integer data type. It does not contain float data type. So guys, I hope you are clear with this part, zeros and ones. How can we create arrays with zeros and ones? So guys, if you are clear till now, we are remaining only few topics guys, like matrix multiplication, then random integers. Random integers is a very important topic. Then guys, some utility functions and array processing, slicing, and last analysis. Last statistical matrix. These are the parts guys which are remaining. So guys, can I get a thumbs up if the part is clear till now? You can write the emoji in the comment section. I am waiting in the chat guys. Okay guys. Many thumbs up I have got. Thank you for your responses guys. Let's move forward. Now guys, we had completed with 0 and 1. Now our next topic is matrix multiplication. Guys, first of all, to start with the code part, I want to make sure that you know what is matrix multiplication. Guys, let me clear your doubts. If you can read here guys, if we had 1D arrays, then guys there will be a dot product. Then what does this mean? Guys, here you can see in the first example. Here we have two 1D arrays, that is 1, 2, 3, minus 3, 0 and 10. And guys, both the shapes should be same for matrix multiplication in 1D arrays. And we have guys matmul function, where we have to pass both the array as input, and we will get the output. How will this perform guys? Let me write in the comment part. So guys, first it will take first element from array 1, that is 1, and multiply it with the first element of array 2, that is minus. Then guys, here we will have plus. Then again second element with second element of array 1 and second element of array 2. And then guys, again addition symbol. Then again third element of array 1 and third element of array 2. So guys, what will be the output here? You can see 1 into minus 3, that will be minus 3, plus 2 into 0, that is 0, and plus 3 into 10 equal to 30. So guys, we will get the output as 27. Guys, you can see we had got the output 27. I hope you are clear with the 1D part. And guys, when we have 2D arrays, it is quite complex guys. You must, if you are coming from a programming background, you must have done this program in C or C++. Whenever we start coding, our college provide us manual of programs, and this is a compulsory program they always provide us. So guys, this program is matrix multiplication of 2D arrays. So guys, how we can do this? For 2D arrays, guys, first of all, the first condition is the number of columns of first array should be equal to number of rows of the second array. So then only, guys, we can do this matrix multiplication. Let me write the shape, guys, here. First array have shape of 3 comma 2 because there are 3 rows and 2 columns. Can anyone say me what is the shape of second array? That is array 4. Guys, I am waiting for your reply in chat section. Yes. Right answer by Siddharth Ramprakash, 2 cross 3. Preeti, your answer is wrong. 2 cross 1 is not the right answer. Then Sai Rajesh, Swaday, Anshul Verma, Prajita Kumari, all your answers are right, guys. So guys, let's now we can see here if you multiply array 3 and array 4. First of all, let me write the shape here, 2 comma 3. Guys, if you can see, if you multiply array 3 and array 4, how it will do? Here 3 comma 2. Then guys, we are performing multiply of 2 comma 3. Guys, here you can see that here the column of first array and row of second array are same. So guys, it want to print any error and it will perform matrix multiplication. Similarly, guys, over here, the first array is 4, that is 2 cross 3. And the second array is array 3, that is 3 cross 2. Again, we have same column number and row number of array 1 and array 2. So guys, let's run this code. Here we had got our output, guys. If you are not clear with, guys, what is matrix multiplication of 2D arrays, it is a mathematical concept. You can search over Google and you will get very good examples. Guys, we can't explain you matrix multiplication in depth as of now because our main focus is to explain you the NumPy, not mathematics now. So guys, as you can see here, we had got both the output. Now let's try with another example. If you try array 3 and array 3, guys, what will be the shape of this? The shape of array 3 is 3 by 2. And if you multiply it with again 3 by 2, guys, you can see here that 2 and 3 are not matching. What we want, that column of first array and row of second array should be same. But here it's not matching. So guys, this means that, guys, this will print an value error. You can see, guys, here it is a value error because the shape is not matching. Now guys, let's move forward for random integers. Guys, sometimes we want to create array of random integers. We don't need any specific integer. So guys, we can create this using np.random module, and inside np.random module we have one function known as randint. So guys, here you can see np.random.randint. Here what will it print? It will print any integer from 0 to 4 because 5 is exclusive here. And again, I am printing it 2 times. So let's see, do we get different output? Yes, we have got 4 and 2. Again, we will run again different output. Yes, 1 and 1. Again different output, 0 and 4. The number of times we run, the output will be different, guys, because it is a random number. It will generate any pseudo random number. So guys, this was only related to one integer. But guys, what if we want to here we had specified only endpoint. But what, guys, if you want to specify both starting and ending point? Guys, we can do this using the here we had passed 2 arguments. One is 5, that is starting, and high is equal to 6, that is ending part. So guys, you can see if we run this card, we are getting 5. So we won't get any number that is less than 5 or greater than 6. Now guys, our main focus is how we can create arrays using np.random.randint. So guys, here is the step. First of all, what we have to do, we have to pass the starting, that is -3. Then we have to pass the ending index, that is 14. And guys, the third argument will be the shape. What shape you want to print this random variable. So guys, run this part. You can see, guys, here we had got 2 by 2 array of random numbers between -3 and 14. If I write, guys, here suppose 4 by 4. Then guys, we can get 4 by 4 array of random numbers between these. So guys, I hope you are clear with the random number part. Now guys, there is an extension in the random number, that is seed. What is seed, guys? Here you can see, sorry, let me move upward. The number of time we will run, we will get different outputs. See guys, I am running again and again, and all the time I am getting different outputs. But guys, if you want to get same output every time, so guys, we can set a seed variable, seed function to any integer. This is not compulsory that we set it to 1. We can set to 10, 20, 100, up to you guys. So guys, if you set this seed function, then when here again I am doing the same thing. I am first printing one variable, means it will return one integer from 0 to 9, and then second, guys, I am here creating a 2 by 2 array between 3 to 100. And guys, let's print this. So guys, what we are getting here, 5 as our integer and 15, 75, 12 and 78 as our array. And again, if we run, guys, you can see we are getting same output again and again, because guys, we are use here seed. And let's suppose, guys, I want to access this array, random array, in ahead any part of the code. And guys, how can I use this? I will tell you also this method. And guys, if you use new seed over here, then it will again print new. You can see, guys, here from 50, here this block and this block, they have different output, because guys, here seed are different, so they will have different output. But again, guys, here I am using original seed again, seed 1 again. So guys, let's see output. Here you can see, guys, we had got same output of the first block, that is 5 as integer, 15, 75, 12 and 78 as the our array. So guys, if you want to use random integer, but also we don't want shuffling of new integers or new elements, we can use this random, guys. So guys, I hope you are clear with this utility function. Then guys, this is most important topic when learning NumPy arrays, that is accessing. How we can access the array. Here you can see that, guys, here we have 1D array, that is 1 to 5. And guys, if you want to access first element, we can, like, 1D array is simply like list, guys. We can access like elements like list only. Array of 0 will return 1. What, guys, can I get in the chat section what array of 4 will return? And guys, what array of 4 will return? And also, can we use any alternate instead of array of 4 to get the same output? First, guys, what array of 4 will return? 5. Yes, many of you are giving 5 answer. It is right answer. And what alternate we can use instead of array of 4? Yes, first answer I had got from Israq Ahmed. Very good answer. -1. Priyanshu Kapadia. Very good answer. -1. Sorry, not Priyanshu. Manas Ohara. Manas Ohara, your answer was -1. Very good. Yes, guys. If you print, as you all know that Python supports negative indexing. So instead of 4, we can also write -1, and we will get the same output. So guys, as you can see here, we had got 1 and 5. And guys, here now the main topic comes. If we use 2D array, that is 6, 3 and 0 and 2. Here, guys, what will the shape of this? That is 2 cross 2. So guys, this is the shape of the array. And if we want to access array of 0, then guys, the array of 0 will return this first list, guys. As you can see in the output, we are getting the first list as the output. Instead, if I use array of 1, then guys, we will get the second list. Okay, guys. I am not taking much time in array accessing, because guys, this is familiar with you. You are also familiar with Python list, so no need to go in deep. But guys, the main topic here comes is slicing, because guys, slicing is very much different from Python list here. Because guys, in Python list we had a different type of slicing, and here we are using different type of slicing. Guys, in the first block here we are slicing 1D array. It will be similar to the Python. It will be similar to the Python list. Guys, here we are using column. So what will it print? It will print all the elements. Then guys, here we are using starting index as 1 and ending index as nothing. So guys, it will start from first index, that is 2, and it will print till end. So guys, what will it print? 2, from 2 to 5. Now guys, if we will print 2 colon 4, can anyone tell me what will be the output of this? If we are slicing with 2 colon 4. Yes, guys. Ar- Aprajita Kumari, right answer 3 and 4 will be the output. Ronit Verma, no, 3, 4, 5 is the wrong answer. So guys, I hope here you got the output, because look guys, here the our starting index is 2. So traverse this array, 0, 0th position, first position and second position. The second position is 3. And as you know that guys, this last index is exclusive. So guys, 5 will not be included and 3 and 4 will be the output. Similar guys, here we are printing colon -1. Then guys, last element won't be printed and everything will be printed. Let's run this part, guys. I hope you are clear with all these example, guys. Now, guys, here new part comes, how to slice 2D arrays, guys. For 2D arrays, guys, we can use comma. Let's see first, guys. First example is same. Whole 2D array will be printed. Then, guys, one column. What does here one column means, guys? Here we will get from first row. 0th row won't be printing. Let me, guys, first try this part. I am executing this part. Guys, you can see here that first row is not printed and the second row and third row is printed. So guys, now again guys, here the concept of comma comes into picture. Guys, before comma, whatever we will write the slicing part, it will be considered for rows, and after comma, the part will be considered for columns. So guys, here we are using column. What does this mean? Column means everything. It means guys, we are taking all the 3 rows. Okay guys. Now for column, we are only taking -1. That means guys, we are only taking this last column. Guys, what does this mean? It will print only 3, 6 and 9. Okay guys. So next example, again we are taking whole columns and whole rows, and column will be from 1 and 2, because I am taking one column. If nothing is mentioned over here, then it will take till the end. Now guys, here there are few examples you can try of your own. If you have any doubt, you can mention in the chat section. We will solve your doubt after the end of the session. Now guys, last 2 topics are remaining. Let's move forward. Now guys, for analysis, here guys, we are given a 2D array, and if we want to know which is the minimum or maximum in this array, so guys, we can use this. Let me separate this code for convenience. Create a new block, and guys, write this part over here. So guys, you can see here, if we will print array.mean, can anyone tell me what will the answer of array.mean and array.max? Yes, array.mean will return -60, because it is the smallest element in the whole array. And yes, many of you are giving good answer. And array.max will return 72. Very good answer by you guys. Thanks for the answer. And if you run this code, you can see -60 is the minimum element in this 3 by 3 array, and 72 is the maximum element. Now guys, if you want minimum and maximum column wise or row wise, how we can perform this? Guys, always there is a confusion between axis. So let me clear. Axis 1 means row wise, and axis 0 means column wise. Okay guys. So guys, what here I am writing array.mean and passing axis.0. So guys, it will use column wise. In this first column, what is the minimum? That is -3. In the second column, what is minimum? -2. And this third column, -60 is minimum. So it will return -3, -2 and -60. And guys, here I am writing array.max and axis equal to, instead -1 we can write 1 also, there is no issue. So guys, 1 is the row. So it will print the maximum row wise. In first row, the maximum is 72. In second row, the maximum is 3. And in third row, the maximum is 4. Yes. Yes, guys, you can see, as I told you, the output is similar only. Now, guys, moving to the last topic, that is statistical metrics. Guys, as you seen here, we can use max and mean. Similarly, we can also use mean, variance, median. How can we use these, guys? We can use np.mean function, np.variance function, np.median function and the argument will be the original array. And if you want guys axis wise, then similarly you can also use here axis of 1, 0 or -1, up to you. So guys, let's run this code. You can see the mean of whole array is 2. And guys, the variance of whole the array is 977.63. Then median of whole the array is 1. And guys, if you will perform row wise median, because x is equal to 1 means row wise, then the median of first is 3, median of second is 1, and median of third is -2. So guys, this was the end of NumPy session. I hope guys you had a clear understanding of NumPy here. And before moving forward to Pandas section, one of my colleagues will take one of my colleagues, Kaustubh Tripathi. He is also the CIO of Code Warriors. He will take the Pandas part. But before moving to Pandas part, guys, I want to tell you about one website, that is athenastore.in, guys. You can guys buy products from here. You can buy sketchbook or magnet badges from here. Guys, here you can see the price is 498. Or you can, if you want guys, in a discounted price, we will give you a coupon that is only specific to our event. Here you are attending our event, so you are getting the coupon. Guys, you can go to your cart. Here we can say, here we have a notebook in our cart. And guys, here we can apply the code Warriors. Here you can see now guys, total price is 498. If you will apply our code Warriors, then guys you can see you will get flat 10% discount. So guys, you can purchase, and if you want to gift someone, you can also gift using this Athena Store website. It provides very good stuffs like sketchbooks, and then guys magnetic stickers, a bunch of magnetic stickers guys you can buy as per your choice. And guys, for you, if you have any doubts in NumPy, you can ask me. I am taking 4 to 5 minutes for doubt section. Then we will continue with Pandas. So guys, let me start with some doubts in the chat section. So first doubt is, what is NumPy mainly used for? Guys, NumPy is used for arithmetic and logical operations in NumPy arrays. Guys, if we will write machine learning codes, then guys you will notice that our data set are imported using Pandas, then converted into NumPy arrays. Then guys, whole data pre-processing and everything guys take place in NumPy arrays only. So guys, NumPy array is the most important thing we need to know. Dictionary versus array. Shubham Arbat is asking. Dictionary is a different concept, Shubham. It has a key and value pair, but array is an advanced version of Python list. You, Ronit, you want to know? You want me to explain slicing once more? Sorry, Ronit, time is not permitting me. So you can, after this end session, we will make this video public, and you can watch this video again. You can go to that slicing section and you can watch that again. What the REPR do? Joshua Nyarko Boiting. Sorry for mispronouncing your name. But Joshua, what will, I had told you earlier that REPR nothing, but it is a good way of printing this array. If you will just use print array, then it will not here write array keyword, then this comma will be missing also, then curly braces will also not be present. Sorry, curly not round braces will not be present. So for better visualization, we are using REPR. List and NumPy different, Josana. Josana, look, there are not so much inbuilt function in arrays. Can you perform matrix multiplication with such ease in list? There is no such function. So for that, we are using NumPy. For machine learning, we don't want to write each and every code from scratch. That's why libraries are here to help us. Pradha is asking, isn't REPR using OP for present? Yes, Pradha, you are right. REPR is used for REPR is also used in OOP. Kirti Chand is asking, does NumPy has this much to study? Which minds are taught? No, NumPy is a very vast concept, Kirti. If you will start learning, it may take you 5 to 6 days, because when you learn any one library, it is not limited. It has a very vast concept. But I taught you only those parts that you will be using in machine learning. Whenever you will write any machine learning code, you will use these parts. NumPy and Pandas difference, Romit. Romit, now one of our instructor will teach you Pandas. The difference between Pandas and NumPy is Panda is used for manipulation with data sets. Directly we can manipulate data set over Pandas, and NumPy is used for numerical operation, most specific, if I will say. Can list be 2D? Yes, why not? Here you can see this is a 2D list only. But here in the programming term, we called it as a nested list, not 2D list. 2D concept is in the arrays, not in the list.
I am Kaustubh Tripathi, one of your instructor for this course, and I will be explaining you Pandas throughout this course, this workshop. Okay, so guys, one thing I want to know first, are you getting my voice clear? Are you getting a voice, some noise out from my speaker right now, from my mic? Or if you are getting a voice clear, can you please tell me on chat section? Okay, thank you. So I guess my voice is clear today. Yesterday there was some kind of a noise because of the weather problem here. It was raining, so you were getting a little bit of a disturbance, but today it's good. Okay guys, so let's start Pandas. Now earlier Mr. Mayank Bajaj has explained you the complete NumPy library. Same way there's another library, a competing library for the NumPy, that is Pandas. Most of the features of the Pandas are exactly, means what NumPy is doing, exactly the same thing is done by the Pandas, but in a different manner, or you can say in a more efficient manner. Okay, NumPy is basically work for the, some of you have asked the question, what is the difference between NumPy and the Pandas? So I want to tell you, NumPy is basically, it works with the arrays. You create an array and you work with those arrays. But Pandas works on data frames. You have a huge data set, and on that data set only you just start manipulating that data set, cleaning the data set, accessing the values from that data set. So Pandas, like either you can also do, you can import the data set and you convert it into an array and use NumPy features on it, or you can, without converting, you can just have a that data set, you can directly do whatever the calculations you want to do on the data set. That's where Pandas come in play. Those are the things that we can do with the Panda. So Panda is generally used for data analysis. As I told you, if you are applying for the data scientist, you want to learn with the machine learning models or deep learning models. In this, there's always a huge amount of data to work with, and data is never an accurate data, because there will be some kind of a missing values, or some kind of, always there will be lots of noise in the data, and you want to remove that noise, and then you want to understand what that data is giving me, what the output that data is giving me. Like if I have a huge data, what I can understand from that data. So for those things we use Pandas library. Okay, now Pandas allow us to import the file formats like JSON file, CSV files, SQL files, or Excel files, and many other files. Pandas is a huge, it's a very big library and a very important library for the data science field, and also the most easy library. I will show you the concepts and you will realize it's a super easy library to work with. Okay, so Pandas has some features like data manipulation that I told you, reading and writing data, then reshaping of data, data filtration, data cleaning. That's all we are going to work today, and you're going to see how we are doing all of these things with the help of the Panda. We will also create our own data set and also use one of our Kaggle's data set. If you have not joined Kaggle and you are a data science field aspirant, I'm telling you, just go and start doing competitions on the Kaggle. Okay, because Kaggle is like a god in data science field. Okay, and I'm using one of its dataset, Titanic dataset, where I have a huge amount of data for the Titanic ship, and that I will be using to explain you the concepts of the pandas. Okay, so let's start here. Now, first concept is comes if you're talking about pandas. How are we going to install panda into our computer, into our yes, compute obviously. So if you are using Anaconda distribution that I have explained you yesterday, then you will automatically have a pandas on your computer. Okay, it will be automatically installed. But if some of you might have installed Miniconda or installed any other interpreter of Python, then you might not get panda. So all you have to do is go to your command prompt, type pip install pandas, and it will install pandas on your computer. If you are using Miniconda, you can say conda install pandas, and it will install panda on your computer. Okay, so when you have panda, yesterday I told you about the modules. In the end part, I have explained you modules. Now panda is also a module, a library, and to import a module, a library, I told you you can it's just a simple syntax: import pandas as pd. As you can see, I have imported this library over here, import pandas as pd. Now as pd means I'm creating an alias of pandas with a name pd, because panda is a big term. I use just pd, so reduce the size of the name. So if I run this code by pressing shift enter, so it is taking a time. You can see on the top it is running, and as I get a number over here, that means I have this line has run perfectly fine and my panda is imported. Okay, so I have got a pandas on my computer right now. So now I was talking about creating a data frame. Now yesterday I explained you when I was telling you about dictionary. I told you you can with the help of dictionaries, the main use of dictionaries basically is to create big data frames. So that's what I'm showing you practically today, how we can create data frames with the help of a dictionary. So if you see, I have in this second line, I have created a normal dictionary where the first key is my car and the values is a list. I have given the name of some cars over here. Then the another key is brand, where I have given the name of the companies of the car. Then the cost price. I don't know if this is a actual cost price. Okay, I just created it. And there's the year, how much year old that car is. Okay, so this is our data set dictionary I have created. Now to convert this dictionary, okay, I have this dictionary. Now we can use those yesterday the methods that I told you about, like dix.key method, dix.value method, to get the values out of the dictionary. But if we want to convert this dictionary into a data frame, so that we can apply our models, or we can apply our pandas features for the data manipulation or cleaning of data. So with a small command of there is a method in the pandas library that is data frame, and with the help of this method we can convert our dictionary into a data frame, and the name of my data frame becomes auto. So if you see this line, auto is equals to pd.dataframe, and inside I gave the argument as the name of my dictionary over here. So if I run this dictionary line of code, and it runs perfectly fine, and if I run this, so you see it runs perfectly fine, and let's see how our data frame now looks like. Now see, this was our dictionary, and we have just converted into a data frame. If one column is of all the cars, then its brand, its cost, its year. So this is our data frame. Someone asked me, Ashwani Sharma asked me, what is data frame? I think now you got a pretty good idea what is data frame. Okay, this is a data frame where when data is divided into rows and the columns, and all the columns are our key, all columns becomes our keys, and the values inside of the column becomes the values of all those keys. So this is our data frame. Now you can also, you have created this data frame, but suppose you want to give this data frame to someone. You have created a huge data set. Okay, this is a very small data set, like 4 by 6, 4 columns, 6 rows. But if you have created a huge data and you want to give that data to someone else, or you want to save that data onto your own computer, then there is a simple command our data frame name is auto. Remember this thing. We are going to use two data frames in this. Okay, so first data frame name is auto. Remember it. Okay, so to convert it into a file, we use auto.tocsv. And CSV is a comma separated file where all the values are separated by a comma. As you can see here, all my values are separated by a comma over here. Now we can also convert it into a JSON. All we have to do is write a JSON over here. Okay, and give an extension of JSON over here. We can convert it into JSON, or we can convert it into an Excel file or SQL file, whatever we want. So right now I'm converting into a CSV file over here. And if I run this line of a code, it runs perfectly fine. And if you go to your computer, wherever the your working directory is for the Jupyter Notebook, which mostly the document section is. So if you go to this document section of your Jupyter Notebook, you will see somewhere you can see here, it is a automobile.csv file is created onto my computer. You can even go to the documents folder over here onto your computer, and you can find a automobile.csv file just saved in your computer. So that's how you can save your data frame, whatever the data set you have created, into your own computer. Now, this is about creating our own data frame. But what if we have one big data frame, we have downloaded it from somewhere, we are doing a competition, and we have downloaded our data frame from somewhere? How to use that data frame into our model? How to access that data frame? So to import a data frame, again, we have imported pandas library, and there is a method. When we were converting into a CSV file, we use the method to_CSV. Now we are reading a CSV file, so we are saying read_CSV, and we just give the name of the file, and we give the data as this is the name of the data frame that will be created for the Titanic.csv file. Now this Titanic.csv file is a Kaggle competition file. If you will start Kaggle as a beginner, the first competition that you will get was as a Titanic competition, and you will also get the link for this data set as well as this whole code in the chats. Right now we have already uploaded the link for the code and the chat code and the data set on our chat, so you can download the data set from there. And also, if you want the code, you can see in the chat. So if I run these two lines of the code over here, and you see my Titanic.csv file is imported into my computer. Now if I want to see the file, I want to see the data set, how my data set looks like. So either we can use complete data, and it will give you a huge amount of this data. It has got 891 rows and 12 columns over here. Okay, this is my complete data of Titanic.csv. You can see here, these are the indexes, these are passenger IDs, these are the survived or not survived. 0 means not survived, 1 survived. These are the passenger class, name, sex, age, sibling, spouse, parents, children, tickets, fare, cabin, and embarked. Okay, so these are all the columns, and these are the values inside of those columns. Okay, that's our data I've downloaded from the internet. No, but this is a huge data. I don't want to see this much. I just want to take a little bit of an idea of the data. So we can say data.head. So what it does, it will give you the top 5 rows of the data, just so that you can see what kind of a data looks like. Okay, so you see, this is just the top 5. If you want to change, you can just give it 10 rows. So it will now give you the 10 rows of that data over here. Okay, so that's the feature of data.head. Means we are taking the head of that data. Now, if we want to see the last values of the data, then we use a method called tail, data.tail. And if I press enter now, you see I got the last 10 values of my data. So this is used basically to check our data, what our data looks like, and what are its features inside the data, what are the values inside of the data. Okay, these data.head, data.tail, this is used for, even there's one more feature inside the data, and that is data.info. Enter. It gives us the complete info of data, It says this passenger, there are like 12 columns over here, all the name of the columns. It tells us how many values are present over there, normal, and it tells us the data type of all those values. Like there are some integers, some objects, means they must be strings. Then there are floats, and it tells us how many columns of float are. Like there are 2 columns of the float, 5 columns of the integers, and 5 columns of the object. Okay, someone, Divankar Balkere, asked me, will you explain head again? Both head and tail at the same time. Okay, so head is nothing. It is just simple. If I just use head over here, it gives me the head of the data. Suppose there is a huge data and you want to see the top values of the data. You put a data.head method and it will give you the head of the data, means the top 5 rows of the data. And if you pass any value inside of it, then that tells it that this number of rows I want to see. So now if I pass the value 10 over here, so it gives me the 10 rows of that data. Okay, now someone asked me, can we use head and tail together? So there is no point of using a head and tail together. You can simply say data and it will give you head and tail at the same time, first 5 rows and last 5 rows. So there is no point using head and tail. Okay, so next comes data.shape. This is another method, attribute. It's not a method. There is no curly braces, small braces around here. So it's an attribute here, and it tells you what is the shape of your data. Now my data is 891 rows and 12 columns, and it's telling me the shape of that data. Now another attribute is data.columns. Now what this does, it gives us the list of all the columns present in that data. Now, sometimes, this is a very small data and you are seeing only 12 columns and you can see it very clearly, but data are not these small. They are huge amount of data. There will be thousands of columns present in the data, and you can't just keep on scrolling to see the data, the name list of the columns. So what you do, you run the data.columns attribute and you just check what are the columns present in my data to directly access them. And I will tell you what I mean by accessing columns, as you can see the heading below. Okay, then another method is, suppose there is a column name over here, embarked. I want to see what kind of values are present in this column, or any column, let's say sex. I want to see what kind of values are present in the sex or the age. So to check the values, there's a normal method. I said data embarked means I'm accessing the embarked column. Dot value counts means whatever the values are present over here, counts them how many values are present. So if I just do a shift enter over here, it says S value has 6, there are 644 S values, 168 C values, and 77 Q values. Now this thing is used basically to analyze the data, to check what kind of data I have, to work to see like what kind of values present in my data, and to work what kind of cleaning do I have to do, or do I have to remove something. So to understand our data, we use these methods to check what data is available. Then there is one more method called .unique method. It gives out the unique values present in the data. Like if I say data sex .unique, it says there are 2 unique values, male and female. If I put a embarked over here, I hope the spelling is right. Okay, there are 4 values present inside the embark, that are S, C, Q, and NaN. NaN means not known, unknown values are there. No, like when someone is creating the data, he does not know that person is from which place. So it is NaN, means does not know. Okay, same way we can check for the another column, like survived column. And if I press shift enter, I get 2 values, 0 and 1. If you see over here in survive, we have 2 values, whereas 0 and 1. Now these kind of things basically we use when we have a classified columns, where columns are like have 2 to 3 kinds of values, or 5 to 6 kinds of values. Now we can't apply this on the name because everyone has a different name. So we will get a 891 values present over there. So there is no point of using it. There is no point of using it on the age, ticket, fare. There is no point of using it on these. So we use it on the classifier columns like survived, because there can be only 2 values, 0 or 1. Or sex, male, female, embarked, S, C, or Q, the places from which that person, boarded the ship. So these are all the basics of the data frame. Now let's talk about how we have a data. Now we want to access some specific column inside of the data. Suppose I want to access, let's say, a name of some person. How name of the complete name column if I want to access. How am I going to do it? So it's simple. It's just use the data. It has the name of our data frame and give it the name of the column, data name. And you see, it gives us the complete list of all the names present as the data from 0 to 4 and 886 to 90, head and tails of the data. Now, suppose we want two columns. So we put those two columns, create a list of those two columns and use square braces and press shift enter. Now we got two columns inside of the data with the name and the sex present over here. And this is the index of all those names and sex. Now we talked about accessing columns. This is a way of accessing columns. We will also see more advanced thing in accessing columns later on. Now, if you want to access a row, suppose this is our data and we want to access some row, like I want to access this second row, or I want to access 886 row. How am I going to access this row? So accessing rows are based on the index of that row. And there's one method called iloc. The full form of iloc is index location with the help of using an index. So data.iloc, and we have passed in the index as 0. And now if I run this code, and it gives me the 0th index, complete value of 0th index. I can pass over here like 5, and it will give me the 5th index, whatever the 5th index is present, all the values of that 5th index. Now I can also apply a slicing method, and I can say 5 to 10 over here, and it will give me, okay, wait a minute, it does not. I have to remove the list. Yes. Now it gives me the complete list of 5 to 9. In the slicing, this 10 is always the exclusive one. It does not include it. Okay, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It took the 5 rows and gives you the output of all those 5 rows values. Now the thing is, I don't want a complete row, or I don't want a complete column. I want a particular row and the value of that particular column, means using like XY coordinates. Okay, suppose this is my data and I want the name present in the 4th row. How am I going to know I need the name only at the 4th row. I don't need rest of the details. Okay, just want to know the name. So what we are going to do is, let's come back to, we use lock method, LOC. Now this was iloc method and this is a lock method. Now lock method is a much more advanced method from iloc. Okay, iloc basically works with the indexes only. You need to know the index of that row. Like suppose if I just say in the iloc only, I say 5 and I give a column name, let's say 4. And if I run it, you see it gives me the 5th row and 4th column. Now 5th row over here and the 4th column, which is sex, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it becomes 0, 4, and we got the male over here. But when you are having thousands of columns, you don't know what is the index of some column present in the like 890th place or 899th place. You will never know the name of the columns. Okay, the index of the column. So for those cases, we use the particular name. We use a lock method, and lock method does not accept the indexes for the columns. It accepts the name, and that's what I did over here. I sliced for rows 1 to 5 and gave the column name as name, sex. And if I run this, it just gives me the name and sex of 1 to 5 columns present over there. Okay, same thing I can do. I can put a stepping point also over here, like I can say 2, and it will do the stepping 1, 3, 5, and I got the name and the sex of those. So mostly I told you here data.columns. With the help of this, we can find the name of all the columns present in that, and then we can access any of the column with the help of the LOC method. And honestly, LOC is my favorite method than in comparison to ILOC. Okay, ILOC requires indexes, but you will see later also LOC has a huge amount of use cases in comparison to ILOC. Okay, that's why LOC is my favorite, and I will also suggest you to use the LOC method. Okay, now let's talk about changing index. Now you see here in this my data frame, we have got this index starting from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and goes up to 8, 9, 10. But we also have a passenger ID that is doing exactly the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and goes up to 891, giving us the exact index of those items, right? So why do we need this in special index over here? So sometimes we to clean our data, we remove the index part, and that's how we do it for the changing of index. We take our data and we use the set index method, and we provide in the argument section the column name which we want to keep as an index over here. Now right now we are creating passenger ID as our index. So I will use data is equal to data.set_index, and I pass the passenger ID and runs perfectly fine. Now if I see my data, now you see passenger ID becomes an index. There is no other index present over here. And if I right now run data only, you see now I'm only having 11 columns because passenger ID has become the index. Now columns start from survived, P class, name, sex, age, sibling, spouse, and all. But I have 891 rows and 11 columns, and I have removed the index. Now index removing is one more big use case of index removing is, this is the very basic case, but the big case is right now I was using here iloc method, right? So here I was in this section, I was passing the index values. So suppose we create an index as a name. Okay, we transform here, we write name over here. I'm sorry. And if I run this and this, now you see name has become the index and rest everything is available over there. Okay, it removes the passenger ID and converted the name as an index over here. So now if we want to access someone, we can just give the name of that person here in the lock method, and it will immediately access that person's row. So that's also another use case of the name, of the index feature, changing the index. But let me just reset everything back to normal. Okay, I'm gonna just load the lab file. Okay, now everything is back to normal. So it was just to explain you the index, how we can change the index. Now the most important thing comes is filtering of data. We have a huge data and we want to filter our data. Okay, first thing I want to ask, are you having any doubt up till now? Somebody asked me, Ashwani Sharma, sir, passenger ID is deleted. Yes, earlier passenger ID was we have created passenger ID as our index. But when we have created name as our index, it will remove the passenger ID and will put the name in the place. Okay, so when you are creating an index, you have to make sure that you don't keep on doing it, like keep on changing the indexes, because whatever the index earlier it was, it will get removed from the database, from your data frame. Sorry. So you see here it becomes 891 rows and 10 columns. Okay, so keep that in mind. That's why I again I imported my data and I run it. It is completely good. And the index section, here I'm gonna remove the passenger ID if I want, but there is right now no point of it. Okay, now if you see, passenger ID becomes my index over here, and the main index is removed from the database. Okay, so this was the working with the indexes. Why is 5 inclusive in iloc? Okay, where this square, if you see this square bracket, you know, there's nothing here. I was giving when you give rows and columns, you can put it in a square braces so that it accepts it in that way. But you can, if you are doing a slicing over here, just remove it, give a 5 10, let's say, and if I run it, you get the from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now why you are getting it from 6? Because if you see over here, fifth, let me go to my own data. Okay, now whatever the value was present at the 5th point, it will be having a passenger ID as 6, right? That's why now you are getting here as 6 as a passenger ID for the fifth index. It's not inclusive. Why we can't set first index on column instead of delete? Actually, Gajanan Desai, I did not understand your question, what you're trying to say. How fifth entry is printed when LOC is used? It should be still 4. Wait a minute. Let me show you this point. Okay, I'm again including and running my data. Okay, now I'm gonna use this line. Now what happens is I'm starting from the first index. Now 1, 3, 5. One is Cummings, John Bradley. Now this is actually this is a feature of the LOC. In iLock it removes the index, but LOC it accepts the whatever we provided over here. That's the thing about the LOC. That's why people prefer LOC more than the iLock method, because what happens is, suppose here I've got lots of columns. Now suppose if I was doing the same thing over here with the columns, okay, so if I want to work with the up to the fare, so what I will say, I will have to write up to the cabin part. But understanding this concepts become a lot confusing for people. So that's why in the LOC method they have changed this thing that the end it made endpoint as an inclusive, not exclusive, which was in iLock, or if you see any slicing method of the Python, it is exclusive. But in LOC method it becomes inclusive.